One day, the hug man, you believe in it enough, it'll happen.
You just wait. But yeah, we've started recording. So,
Oh, hey,
hello,
wow.
everybody.
Welcome to Casual Creeps in the climactic conclusion to them.
Yes.
If you've been following us until now, we have reached the final episode. Thank you for continuing to listen if there's anybody doing that.
It is episode 10 on Amazon Prime, but I don't know what episode it is for Gorehead and the Wiener because we always say the wrong one at the beginning. So I'll just leave it out, whatever it says on the title is what it is.
It's day 10, we know that much.
We know it's day 10. It is the final installment of them.
Yes.
Season 1. I don't know if there will be a season 2, but
no,
probably not.
But, I will say this is like the beautiful wrapping on a wonderful present. It's like this wraps everything up so beautifully. It's like a nice little bow.
I was impressed how they wrapped it up because I didn't know how the heck they were going to manage to do that in 1 hour for all of these different characters that they've like gotten them into these crazy situations. And I'm like, how the fuck are we going to end this thing? And I was very delighted to see that we start with a close-up of Bets. She opens her eyes and I'm like, ooh, okay, let's see what happens to Betsy here. And it ends fairly quickly. Beautiful. So
beautiful.
She's sitting in her
satisfying conclusion.
She's sitting in her like 50s housewife pink dress in this bunker. And she looks terrified, and so she's like, well, she sees the exit, and she's like, well, might as well try leaving, and lo and behold, it's open. So she opens it, jumps out into this beautiful sun, and it's like this super happy music, and she just starts running through this beautiful green field with like all these cows everywhere.
Super long wide shot, just like she's super tiny. Yeah.
And then she's just shot.
Just the crack of the gunfire. And it's so abrupt. You're like, did that just happen? Holy shit.
Yeah. Like... And she falls to the ground. I'm assuming she's dead. And you just see that she's dead. And you just see that George has shot her in the middle of the field. It's like, all right, well, I guess it wasn't true love, hey, George.
George, you know, he tried.
Georgie boy.
Just another one tried to get away. He's gonna have to find a new blonde bimbo to try to lonely housewife to try to lure into his bomb shelter. Such a beautiful conclusion to Bets. Like, just seeing her whole story, like her fall from grace as she like consumes herself with her inner racist and just her like crazy anger at like these people for no reason, just destroys her life, and eventually she gets killed by a milkman. That's beautiful.
In a field of cows.
And, it's so hilarious.
Beautifully poetic that she's dying alongside cows.
She
is one.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like such an undignified death. It's so wonderful. It's just like that you deserve to die face down in a field with a bunch of cows. Like, I hope your face fell in cow poop, like just to add to
I hope it did.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful moment with beautiful music and beautiful cinematography, and she just dies, and it's like the filmmakers knew this is what the audience wanted, and they just milked the shit out of it and were like, here you go. You can have it. Hey! Maybe that's what they were thinking.
Just enjoy this moment.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, and that is the last of Bets. That is.
Yeah. And then the next scene, which I was confused by, but it does kind of foreshadow a later moment in the movie, is we see like the horde of racists basically in Compton.
Yeah.
And they're all looking at camera, and then you see Bets and Clark there for some reason, also looking like, at the camera.
And all these other characters too, that like the cops there, the couple that moved away is there.
And it's like you're seeing the POV of one of the Emorys, basically, is what it feels like. And then we see that it's a dream that Lucky is having. And she's currently being prepped in the mental
Be like
hospital
lobotomized,
for
essentially.
her lobotomy.
Yeah,
Um,
good times.
and the nurse, not the nurse, the doctor bitch lady, she leaves, and so it's just like this male
Asshole.
nurse in there, not the demon nurse that we saw
Yeah,
in a previous episode. It's a real male nurse this time,
not
and
demon nurse.
you see he's like preparing the needle to inject her with, and she's like, wait, I just really have to go to the bathroom. I just don't want to wreck myself. I don't want to make a
Yeah,
mess.
yeah.
So could you just let me use the washroom before we do this? And he kind of reluctantly agrees.
What a
And
gentleman.
what a gentleman. And Lucky takes advantage of that situation and basically
Goes Sarah
grabs the
Connor
needle.
on his ass and jabs him in the neck with
Hell
the
yeah.
medicine and fucking knocks him out. I'm like, yeah, you go. You don't even need a Terminator to save you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like it's off to a roaring start so far. This episode, I'm just like,
Jets
Jesus,
is
this is
blown
action packed.
away. Dude gets needle in the neck. And then Lucky goes to freedom. But
Yeah,
along the
yeah.
way,
Along the way, she's walking past another woman, which at first I thought was her, and I was like, oh fuck, is she dreaming again? Is she
oh
just seeing
yeah,
herself being
yeah.
lobotomized? And no, it was a different woman, but she was
I
lying
thought it was
down,
I
so it
thought it
was
was
hard
the
to
other
tell.
neighbor woman that was also in there with her.
Oh, it could have been, yeah. But
Yeah,
anyway, she walks past a room of someone that's about to be lobotomized, and the nurse leaves the room to like get some more equipment, and Lucky breaks in and just smashes her head against the
oh,
wall.
it's so great that
Oh,
bitch.
so satisfying.
Big blood
Um,
stain on the wall. Like it's just this is the episode
yeah,
where you get like this is the release episode after
yes,
9 episodes of these family being fucked with for so long and so hard by everybody. It's like, you know what?
S-
That's it. Now
yep,
Lucky's doing the fucking. She's
so
gonna
much.
mess some people up.
Oh, it was so satisfying, and then there's a really nice moment when she leaves because she has to kind of sneak out, and she
Oh yeah, this is
suddenly, right in
beautiful.
front of the door, she sees that there's a security guard watching over the door, but it's a black security guard, and they have a moment where they just make eye contact, and he just looks back down. It's like turning a blind eye to
Oh,
her escaping, and she runs
yeah,
out. I was like,
it's so
yes,
great. Yeah, yeah. You're like,
uh,
yeah. And then like they have
hell yeah,
and again the music is like there's so much music in this episode too, and it's done used so well. And like she has like that
yeah,
super confident, she's strutting out, and then as soon as she sees the security guard, like hard stops the music, and then
yeah.
she walks out and it just plays again, and you're like, yeah, she's back on track.
The music in this episode or in this series is
Yeah,
so good. Like it,
yeah.
there's a few moments I didn't really take note of it because there was so much else going on, but there were a few moments in this episode where the music starts as something more sinister, and then in the next scene it just sort of seamlessly transitions into a different song that's much
Hmm.
more peppy. But
Yeah.
the way that they mix horror music and sounds with like old school 50s music, I
And
think is
like
done so
and
well.
gospel, like when
Yeah,
she's walking through the halls,
gospel
and
music.
like they're like that song that they're talking about where it's like what, like a few blacks will live and all the crackers will
Yeah,
die, and it's just like this is intense music, and it's like
fucked up,
gospel
right?
music, and you're just like, whoa,
Yes,
okay, this sets the tone.
it does. Really well done. But yeah, so
There's no time to
next,
stop because
no,
holy
no,
shit,
no,
we're
we
off to the
keep going.
races.
We
Yeah.
keep going, and the episode keep like jumps around between characters, which I think is smart. They do this a lot through this series because
It keeps it
I feel
way more
like
exciting.
it keeps it exciting and it keeps the pace a little
Hmm.
bit better, because I think
Yeah.
if we stuck with one character for too long, the feeling of the episode wouldn't feel right, because each character has sort of their journeys kind of, it's like there's moments where they're escaping and stuff, and then there's like terrible things that happen, and it's kind of
Hmm.
like you need to jump back and forth between the characters as they're going through similar feeling situations. Otherwise it'll just be like a hard like cut to something that doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, and they I think also it's really smart that they do that, because if you stop and think about it, each of the kind of like scenes, because all the Emerys are kind of on their own, and this is like about them facing
Yeah.
their own demon. And but if you think
Yeah.
about it, if they stayed on one too long, it would get kind of boring, because it is just essentially each of them are in just a room. So it
true.
keeps
Yeah.
it far more exciting when they're cutting back and forth, because what they're doing is not actually a lot. It's just like, but with the cutting, it keeps the tension up. But if it just stayed on it, I think it would just kind of get maybe a little like long in the tooth. And also, not to mention, like, every scene that they have is so emotionally intense and has a lot in it that it would be like, I don't know, it would almost be too much, I think. Like,
it'd be overwhelming because it's like they're preparing you all for the climax of each person's story.
mm-hmm,
So when
mm-hmm,
you cut back and forth, it's sort of like they're keeping the pace of like a classic narrative instead of
yeah,
telling one narrative and then another narrative.
mm-hmm,
It'd be
yeah.
like watching 4 episodes in one. So, anyways, I think
Yeah, it feels like
they've
one
been doing a very
story,
good job.
even though it's four
Yeah,
different
because
things.
they're
Yeah,
all, even though they're all doing different things, each story is interconnected in many
yeah.
ways. So they're kind of cutting on similar moments where it ties together with another person's story.
And you find out that they're all facing off against old Dutch dude, and like,
Yes. Well, yeah, it was really good timing for the previous episode because it really does give you insight into what the fuck these demon
yeah,
things
what he
actually are.
wants, what it,
So
yeah,
now it feels like you're prepared watching this final episode. You have more understanding of
mm-hmm,
what the history of the demons basically are.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, each character has their own demon that they're basically facing off on. And we realize throughout the episode that the person that's really holding the family together is Lucky, even though she went through the most trauma. She's the one that really needs to, because I think because of the previous trauma
Yeah.
she's obviously gone through,
She's
she's the
hard as
one that kind
steel.
of,
She's a
she's also
tough
the one
lady.
that kind of needs to solve this. It's like she needs to face what happened to her, and she
Mm-hmm,
needs to basically be the one to kind of um, stand up for her family again because she's been absent for so long
mm-hmm.
because of this trauma that
Yeah,
happened to her.
yeah, and it's kind of like, if you think about it, like, each of their kind of issues do derive from that one event that happened to
Yeah,
Lucky and the son,
totally
because
does.
like
Yeah,
the dad's trying to just be happy and pretend everything's great even though it's
yeah,
not, and that's what drives his like insanity. And then like the younger girl just doesn't want to be her mom, and then the little girl is just like kind of afraid of her. And so I think it's
yeah,
like, this is Lucky's moment to show everybody that she's still the mother, and she wants to protect them, and she is
yeah,
going to be there for them, and she'd never hurt them, and she's there to, kick some ass. Whoop
yeah.
some ass, like Lucky says.
She's the one picking up the pieces again and showing everyone that she's strong.
Yeah.
She can be there for the family. They don't have to be the ones that are holding up the house anymore. It's like she's
Yeah.
there to help again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. They're a
anyways, that all
united
being,
family.
and they're all helping each other again, which
Yeah.
is nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, we do now cut to the basement when
Oh God.
last we saw Henry was being hanged by the racist white dudes.
Yeah.
Um, and thankfully, we immediately see Ruby run in with an axe and just like
Shining the shit
hit,
out of that asshole in the back.
hell yeah, just slams the axe into the back of the other white dude. And the main racist asshole white dude, he
Yeah.
just like runs away
No,
in
it's even
fear.
better, because he sees the gun in the guy's back, and he's like, you see he's thinking of reaching for it, and Ruby's just standing over him with the axe,
Oh
like,
right, yeah,
please go do it. I want you to do it. And she just like
right.
has this like, I'll fucking kill you, asshole look on her face. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, and there, like, throughout this episode there is such tension between sort of the theme that happened throughout the rest of the episode, where it's like the white people are just really trying to like hammer these guys down despite all this racist shit happening, and finally in this episode you're seeing like, fuck you guys.
Yeah, it's like,
We're taking control of this situation now. Like, you clearly are completely ignorant to what your racism is doing to
Yeah.
our family. Like, a lot of them probably were unaware of what was happening in the basement, and they're just relentlessly still like getting pissed at the Emerys because they're like, oh, they see Henry chasing after this racist dude out of the house, and
Yeah.
he starts shooting him with the gun. And so all of these white people are like, what the fuck, you're just shooting this guy for no
Yeah.
reason. And
Even
so
though
in
he's like half his face is like
I
swollen shut,
know,
he's covered in blood.
but I
Also, he
think
has a
in
missing
previous
pinky.
that's right. And in previous episodes, I would have been afraid that the white racist people would kind of overtake the
Mm-hmm.
situation and beat them down once again. But finally, in this episode, you're seeing the Emerys start to climb, and they're the
Mm-hmm.
ones that are starting to take control of the situation. So you're like, fucking finally,
Well,
you
and you
guys
start to see
deserve
how
this.
spineless all the freaking
I know,
white
like they
people
don't do
are.
anything. The only, and we'll get to this guy pretty quick. The only one with a spine is Clark, which you
Mm-hmm.
find out previously is that it's insinuated that he's gay, and so he kind of has this understanding of
Persecution.
persecution, of being an other
Mm-hmm.
in a
Being a
world
them.
where it's like being not accepted for what you are, and it's so you do see a moment between um, one of the Emerys and Clark eventually, but
I
we'll
think it's
get there.
Lucky. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it because it's
Oh.
like, oh, we already found out that she escaped, so we're good.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
fine.
she's gone.
Yeah,
She's
no,
Sarah Connor her way out of there already. She's on her way
yeah,
home.
we already know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but what happens? Yeah, so Henry is shooting this super racist guy in the streets,
so
and
satisfying.
there's a
Because
showdown
he's the
between
wiener one that's like tried to
he's the
threaten him while
wiener
he was
one.
putting up his TV antenna,
Yeah,
and he's just like, ugh.
and then his pregnant wife comes out, and
Oh,
she's very obviously pregnant, and you can see like his demon, his blackface demon
peaks out
peeks out
there.
from behind her, and is like, trying to get him to shoot
He's
her,
like
and
rubbing
you can
her
see,
pregnant belly with his like
yeah,
stubby finger hand.
so gross, and you can see he's so close to doing it, and then you hear it's either Gracie or Ruby, just like,
Ruby, yeah,
Dad, I think
Ruby,
it was Ruby. It's like,
because
Dad,
Gracie's
what are
in
you
the
doing?
bedroom.
That's right. That's right. What are you doing? And so that gets him to stop, and
Mm-hmm.
he goes back inside the house.
Well, it's
And
actually both of them at that point. I think it's Gracie and Ruby because he says, "Take your
okay,
sister inside."
yeah,
Yeah,
that's when he tells them to go inside, and
yeah. So he's still out there. He's still tense.
that's right. He's still outside, telling
Yeah.
him to go inside. And once Henry starts heading towards the house, that's when the rest of the white people like drag the racist dude inside. Then you
Yeah.
see that interaction between Clark.
Oh.
Oh my god!
This
And
is
I
also
actually
satisfying.
watched this part and I cringed so fucking
Oh,
hard.
good for you.
I watched it. Oh god!
Stompy,
If
stompy.
yeah. So Clark is like, well, what the fuck were you doing in that guy's basement, man? And he starts, telling him,
He says
what did he say?
something. He says it's like we're teaching the gorillas a lesson, like something,
Yeah,
and like he doesn't even like he's so justified in it that he doesn't even think he did anything wrong. Like he doesn't deserve to get the shit kicked out of him for trying to hang him. Like what did you think he was going to do to
yeah,
you? He's like insulted that he would even fight back. Like he doesn't even think that they should. Like he's such a pathetic little thing.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
it's great how his
and
wife's like taller than him too. So he
I
has like
know,
little man syndrome, and he calls his wife a bitch. He just like tells her to shut up. Like
right?
he's such a
Like
prick.
such a prick. And yeah, so then the super racist wiener is
Super
basically
racist.
calls the other guy the F word. I don't think I
Derogatory
can.
gay slang.
Yes, and that's what sets him off, and he basically stomps on this guy's his lower
The
leg,
bullet
and it
wound.
breaks it in half, and he just like keeps stomping on it. I think if his pant leg wasn't on, I wouldn't have been able to watch it because his
Oh,
pant leg's on. So it's like
yeah.
in my head, I'm like, okay, I can imagine it's just a puppet leg. It's not a real leg, but it
Oh,
was still
so
like, oh
the
my
noises
god,
too, just like
oh.
you know that thing is messed up. Like he's not walking
I
normally for the rest of his life. Like
Nor does he deserve to. It's fine.
no, 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 he does not. Everything that happens to him is so satisfying watching this asshole get beaten up. Also, when Henry pistol whips the crap out of his face is very satisfying.
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, so that happened when they pulled him in, and that's when you see a moment Clark is driving away, and
Yeah,
you see that Lucky is coming back, and they have like a sort of a look between
exchange.
them, a little
Yeah.
exchange, and Clark is on his way. Um, but back inside the house, so Ruby and Gracie
Yeah.
are, they were told to go into their own rooms, and Gracie
Wait.
was afraid to like go,
Mm-hmm.
for
Miss
Ruby to leave.
Vera.
She's like, yeah, but Miss Vera's gonna come. And she's like, Miss Vera isn't real. Don't, just close your eyes. I'll be right back. And the house immediately starts getting dark, and Ruby's just like, oh, what the fuck?
Oh
And
yeah, yeah. Because the front door slams because Henry tries to get back in the house,
yep,
and he's locked out of the house, and
yep.
they're locked in.
And they're locked in, and immediately there's some cool shit that happens in this house though. Like I think they did a really good scene, or a really good job of like
Yes.
each person dealing with their specific demons.
Yeah.
And yeah, so basically Gracie is like dragged into the closet,
Miss
which
Vera
turns
gets
into,
her.
Miss Vera gets her, which is turns into this huge creepy ass classroom where
Mm-hmm.
Miss Vera is there, and then Ruby runs into the washroom, and
Yeah.
then that turns into basically like the school bathroom with
Girls
her,
washroom.
yeah, with her like demon cheerleader
Yeah. Yeah.
girl there.
But like
Um, yeah,
the
that was
reveal of Miss Vera though, like I have to say, like that whoever designed Miss Vera did an amazing job, and I'm so glad that they
yeah,
waited till the very last episode to reveal her because you don't see her other than in shadows through the whole thing. You know
yeah,
she's really tall and slender, but that's
yeah.
it. But like, holy crap, that is the ugliest bitch I've ever seen. She's terrifying as fuck.
She's
Like,
terrifying.
it's like it's the Dutch guy. I have to imagine it's the male actor who plays the demon with like
Yep.
this like horrible prosthetics on that kind of make him this like horribly like I don't know, like gnarled but also very pointy witch like
Yeah,
woman.
he looks.
And like the
They
way she holds herself, like her posture, like the way she holds her hands, like everything about Miss Vera. I'm like, that is the scariest shit in the show.
they look like, it's like when we were watching the, what was it called, the ritual. They look like people that would live in the
Yes.
woods
And
and
pray.
have and pray to a demon god, like in the
Yes.
middle of Sweden, or that was in Romania.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, Miss Vera's not cool.
they look like ancient old weird fucking people from the past that are
Yeah.
terrible and racist and pray to the devil.
And
Which is
she's got
perfect.
like black eyes and just like this super tight hair and like the most
Yeah.
the creepiest clothes on, just the worst style.
Yes. And finally, I really loved this part. I think this is one of my favorite parts of the episode, when finally Henry is let in.
Yeah.
And so he starts walking in the house and he's calling for his daughters. And then the house just starts again getting a little darker, and you can faintly hear the song of like, let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. I was like, oh God, what is happening? And he goes down this hallway, he opens a door, and it felt like the hallway was just getting longer. And he opens this door, and
Definitely.
it's like stairs that are just leading up to what looks like this old theater. And so he walks
Black
up, and it just, yeah, it opens up into this massive, beautiful theater from back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And he walks in and sits down and sees that all these white people are watching a blackface show.
Well, and they're playing a
screen.
very racist song, The zippity-doo-dah, zippity-doo.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's a very intentionally racist song as well.
Yeah. So he's sitting in there, and I just thought that was a really good sequence of
Yeah,
leading us
and yeah,
into that moment. It was
the
so
demon. He's
good.
just sitting there with his popcorn, having a good time.
Yes. And I noticed, I don't know if this was intentional, but because one of his eyes was bleeding, it made
Hmm.
one of his eyes look like it had turned black, like his blackface demon. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. I think
Because
that's
they're
kind of
intentional. Because it felt like he was slow, like he believed that this demon was him. So it's like, and it is kind of set up that way for the audience too, where it's like, it feels like he's slowly kind of becoming more and more like this blackface
well, like
demon that's
through
just
throughout
angry.
as the show progresses, they do those like cross shots where it's like half of
Yeah,
Henry's face, half of the demon's face. So, and
yeah,
they mimic each other's
yeah,
expressions a lot of the time. So he's definitely like become like influencing him and trying to become him or something along those
yeah.
lines. And this is the
Yes.
closest that he gets is definitely this point because oh boy does he wind old Henry up.
And we do see Henry and his kids watching the show.
Yeah.
He like looks over and sees them, and then you find out that
Hmm.
the reason he's seeing this is because the day that Lucky was raped and Chester was killed, he took his daughters to see a picture show, and so this blackface demon is guilting him on him not being there on the day that that incident happened, and so
They're
it's like
also watching.
winding him up. Yeah, they're also
They're watching blackface too.
watching blackface, and so it's like winding him up and winding him up, and it's like it's your fault that these white people are doing this racist shit, and
Yeah.
it's your fault that you weren't there, that this happened to them,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
he starts playing that scene
Never in the
on the
right
screen.
place. Yeah, you're never in the right place, Mr. Henry. And he always
Never
keeps
in the
telling
right
him,
place.
never in the right place. Where
So
did you
he
get that
starts.
coin?
Oh God!
Even
And he
when
starts
you
playing
thought you
it
were in the right place, you're in the wrong place. He just keeps
exactly.
digging at him.
Yeah, and you can see it's really working. Like he's really getting angry, and he's you know
Hmm. But he
getting.
blames himself. Like you just see like all
Yes,
the guilt that he has for not being there. Like he feels it was his responsibility, and if he was there, none of this would have happened. Even though realistically, even if he was there was enough of
I
them that I don't think it would have gone any differently. It could have gone even worse if you think
exactly.
about it.
They could have killed one of the other kids because they are so young,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So,
Killed the whole family.
but regardless, yeah, the he starts playing that scene on the movie screen for Henry
Oh,
to watch. So he's now reliving this shit,
he's
and
got some PTSD going on pretty hard. He
he's
doesn't
got
look
some
very good.
PTSD.
He's got the sweats.
And then now we see Ruby in the bathroom, and her blackface demon is telling her she's just like her mom, and that is what she doesn't want. She doesn't want to go
Black
crazy like her
eyes, yeah.
mom, and
Is she talking with the guy's voice at this point, where it's just the Dutch guy's voice? Like,
huh?
because the young girl starts speaking with the old Dutch guy's voice at a
Oh,
certain point, and he's like, you'll become her," and he's like talking this young blonde
oh.
girl has these horrible black eyes, all these black veins, speaking with this old Dutch dude's
It's funny
voice.
that I
It's
didn't
so
even notice
off-putting.
that
Oh, really?
because yeah, because I think I noticed she had a demon voice, but I didn't connect that it was him. If
Oh
that makes
yeah, no, it's
sense.
him. Yeah, because his voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only one that he doesn't do it with is the is Henry's demon. I think that's the only one that you don't
Oh, okay.
hear the Dutch guy's voice. But I think every other. Oh no, Miss Vera doesn't speak at all. I don't think, but just
No, she
looks
doesn't
like
really
him.
speak.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You
So
hear his
super funny.
voice, and it's like, oh, that's very off-putting.
Yes, and you're seeing each person is basically being tormented by their demon,
Yeah.
and Lucky finally
Ruby's
gets
afraid of becoming her mom, and she sees
yes,
her mom in the reflection holding the bloody bag, and she's got crazy dilated pupils. Like,
yeah, just full
whoa,
black eyes, just full ass
yeah.
black eyes, And well, I guess yeah, when she becomes the mom, it's not quite the full black eye. It's like
It's even
almost the full
creepier
eye.
because she still has the
Yeah,
whites of her eyes, but
a little
everything
bit.
else is black, and it's so huge.
Yeah, and then with Gracie, like Miss Vera is basically just hitting her with a stick.
Yeah, just
And
beating her with a stick for
just
Gracie.
the shit out of her. And we see she's approaching the house, but she has to
This is
work through
great.
that horde of racist people,
I think the
which
music
is
kicks in again too, like
yeah.
more
But
awesome.
that was like afterwards, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. The shot from the beginning was basically like her dream was sort of foreshadowing this moment where she's
Yeah,
coming back to the house. You see all of
the mob.
the mob of racist people just yelling at her, and so the only way she can get through is just by screaming at the top of her lungs so they can just kind of like disperse a bit, and then she
Yeah,
runs into the house.
it's so gracious.
and
Primal
and
screams at them all.
as soon as she passes the threshold, there's like a line of fire around the boundary of
Hellfire!
her house. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, she's walking into hell right now.
Shit is
Which
getting
basically,
real.
she literally is just walking into hell of their making right now.
Yeah. Setting it
She
up
goes into
for
the
burning of a town round 2, because like that's kind of what
yep,
you think they're going, because even one of the guys is like, we should burn their house down, and it's like it's setting up the exact same scenario that happened
yes,
to the previous town. You're like, oh,
completely.
Satan's gonna get a good payday tonight.
Oh my
like,
God. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
they're gonna
And
burn down the whole city essentially, or something like, which
fucking
I'm
Christ.
thinking what was the implication of it, at least.
Yeah.
They
And
would burn like the village.
that's what it seemed like would have happened. But yeah, so Lucky walks in and one by one, she's like finding each person as
Yeah.
they're going through this horrific shit. And she can finally now see what everyone is hallucinating. So she
Mm-hmm.
can hear basically Gracie screaming in
Mm-hmm.
her closet. And she walks in and it turns into the same room that Gracie's in. And basically, she just attacks. Oh, this is a cool moment. She attacks Miss Vera,
Yeah.
and
Get away from her.
Miss but Miss Vera's pretty strong, so
Miss
she's like
Vera's one sturdy bitch.
she's a sturdy ass bitch.
She's like
She
7 feet tall. She's so
so
fucking big.
she's massive. So
Just,
she fights back.
oh, it's just
Like she's choking
just
Lucky at this point.
one-handed, like choke
Yeah.
slams her to the wall.
And so Gracie runs away, but Gracie has the idea of going. I love Gracie's the best. She looks
Gracie.
in the she looks in her Miss Vera book, and she sees a photo of Miss Vera, and she just tears it out, starts ripping it apart, and then we cut back to
You're never
Miss
gonna be
Vera and
mama.
Lucky.
You're never gonna be mama.
Yeah,
That's what she keeps saying. It's like, you're not gonna
yeah.
be mama.
You're never gonna be mama. And she rips it
It's so
apart,
cute.
and then we see Miss Vera, her body starts getting torn apart. She just like
Yeah.
rips in half.
Blows blood all over Lucky's face.
I was like, what the fuck? Okay.
But then hard cuts
Sweet.
back to the bedroom, no blood. It's just like, oh.
Exactly. Yeah. So and they're both just fine, but it's
Yeah.
it's the bedroom now because it's like clearly this is a hallucination type situation.
Yeah.
And a shared hallucination.
Took some bad drugs.
And then we see Ruby, and it just gets so fucking bad for Ruby. She, the mom, the demon mom at this point, which is like she doesn't want to be her mother, so the demon turns, like you said, from the cheerleader girl into the mom, and she has the bag that Chester died in, puts it over Ruby's head, and just like slams her face into the sink. But this was I was confused by this part. Like you just see blood spurting and like some like slashing sounds. It's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
But then you hear Lucky, her voice comes in and it cuts to the bathroom, and it's just Ruby like cutting herself with a glass shard that was from the mirror that was broken in front of her. And it takes a moment for Lucky to kind of talk her down off of.
It's
like she was literally
the glass
just
too, and just like bleeding profusely out of her hand. Like,
and Ruby was literally just fighting with a version of her mom, so you can understand why she's like, "What the fuck?" Like
she like points the glass at her and like.
And eventually, she calms down, realizes it's her mom, and they hug, and it's good.
Yeah. And they have the
They're
sweet
kind of out of
moment.
that hallucination.
Well, where she says that, like, another, because they kind of have a little sweet bow at the end of it where like they
Yeah.
kind of make up with the mom, and like
Yeah.
she says, like, remember why your name's Ruby? It's like, oh, because I sparkle, and it cuts back to like
Yeah.
when they first arrived and how happy they were, and it's like, okay, her faith in her mom is like restored at this point
Yeah.
because she says, like, I would never hurt you, and
Yeah.
what happened to me is something that you never need to hear, but I
Yeah.
will never hurt you. And that's, kind of like the apology she gives. And I think that's like, God, that, like, yeah, because you wouldn't want to tell her what happened. Like, Jesus.
No. It's like all you need to know is just some horrific shit happened to
Yeah.
her and to Chester, and it was not the mother that did any of it. It's just
Yeah.
shit that happened.
Well, yeah, because you
And
kind of find out that, like, she might believe that the mom, that Lucky did it.
I
And,
know,
like, she's
yeah.
kind of hesitant if maybe she just made up the story and went completely nuts. Because, yeah, she said in the demon version of Lucky says, it's like, oh, I wanted him to be clean. So I cleaned
Yeah.
him, and now I'm going to clean you. And that's when he puts the
Yes.
bag on his head, or her head.
So scary. Yeah. So, but they make up, and
Yay!
those were the nice moments where it's like, I think you needed that in the episode because it's been
Ooh,
just so like go, go, go. And those moments where
high
like
octane
Gracie
emotions.
hugs the mom
Yeah,
and
Ruby.
Ruby is, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
being
And
consoled by the mom. It really helps to kind of refresh your palate a little bit so you can get
yeah,
back into it. Because
whew,
immediately
and
after
exhale.
we're cutting to
Henry.
Henry sitting down, and you can see he's really getting amped up. Like the
Uh-huh.
his
He's an
demon is just like, go kill all those fucking white people. If you don't do it, like they're just gonna take everything from you.
yeah.
They'll take
Take.
like take and take and take. They will never stop. And so he's, what does he keep repeating? He's like,
He
they'll
calls him
never
like
stop. They'll
a
never
beast of
stop.
the field. A
A
beast
beast
of
of
the
the
field.
field.
Yeah,
He's
it's like, oh, yeah, I've never heard that term before. Like, that's.
he's going down a rabbit hole, and you can tell he's just going a little insane.
Well, he's like
But then
full on punching his chest, like, like beast of
yeah,
beast of the field, like punching himself, and just like, he is
then you
off the deep
see
end.
Lucky's hand comes in, and just like she places it on his
Mm-hmm.
hand, and that kind of starts settling him back into the reality of what's
Yeah,
happening.
and
And they have like a little,
comes
sorry,
harkens back to the PTSD moment in that flashback when we first see Henry
yeah,
in not so good shape, and Lucky's kind of like being the soothing one, and it's kind of like a callback to that too.
yeah, yeah. And you do see all the shit that Henry has gone through, and he keeps flashing
Oh
through
yeah,
his memory
the
of
worst
like
montage ever.
the montage of like he sees the mustard gas, he sees all of
Everything,
everything.
like the beginning, he's shooting the cop. He sees like this Jack in the Box that has the face of the demon that's super creepy on his front door, and just everything that's happened to him, and like everything he's gone through, just all flashes in this one
Yeah,
sequence. You're like, wow, he's been through a lot over the course of the show. Old
he's been
Henry.
through a lot. And
Oh,
but yeah,
fun
so
days.
finally Lucky comes in, consoles him, and
Mm-hmm.
they both have a, I feel like, a much needed talk of her being like, it's not your fault.
Yeah,
You could
yeah.
have never known that this would ever happen. It's
Mm-hmm.
not your fault. It's
Yeah.
nobody's fault. And
Mm-hmm.
so that finally gives us a little bit of like a breather, because there has been a bit of tension between them where it's like she is feeling resentful for all the shit that happened, even though it wasn't his fault. It's like she still had a bit of resentment there because no one was there to help her,
Mm-hmm.
and he feels so much guilt and pain because he wasn't there. And it's finally they're able to talk about it and forgive each other. And then that's sort of when the scene dissipates and they're sitting in their bedroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like this
And
nice moment, and it's like,
yeah, of like they kiss, they make up a little bit, but then you see in the corner the blackface demon is there.
you hear him, you
And
hear he's still there, he's not gone yet, and he looks
he's
horrifying
not
as shit.
there. And he comes out and he's like, "What you gonna do?
Right in the
What you
corner.
gonna do? What you gonna do?" And then earlier in the episode, Henry was saying there's only one bullet left in his gun, and he
Mhm.
grabs it and just he shoots the demon in the head.
Yeah.
And walks up to him because the demon's still like laughing,
Yeah.
and
He's
he
just got a
wipes
full-on hole in his head.
a hole in his head. The laughter fades eventually, like he dies, but he rubs off some of the paint on the face, and it's revealed it's just one of the racist white dudes behind all that paint.
Of course, just an ass racist white ass. Behind all of that. creepy dude. Holy crap, I'm so glad that guy is dead. It's so terrifying.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a poignant moment, just with the two of them.
Yeah, that was a good moment, and
the hellfire is still going on outside too.
Hellfire is still going on.
You just see it through the windows.
Yeah, through all these scenes, you're seeing like the glow of the fire outside. And you're like, Jesus Christ, you guys, hurry up, get through this. I don't want the house to start.
Well, there's like cops outside now, and they have their like guns drawn, and
they look outside, and there's like these cops out there with their guns pointed at the house, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Okay, so there's cops there now, and basically, I forgot at this moment that the priest was still there. Like the priest is still a thing.
The final boss.
And Lucky is like, it's not over yet, and looks at everybody, and she just walks down into the basement by herself, and the door slams behind her.
It's her Ripley moment.
It's her moment. She goes down there, and this was a really cool scene. I felt like I needed to watch it another time to fully understand this moment, but like she goes there, and it's clearly it's the priest there with like his
congregation
all standing around.
Weird,
and
racist
it's like
Dutch people, and they're like big, stupid, frawny, those. I have no idea what they're called, but they look so dumb.
The room has like candles that are sort of lighting the way for her to walk, and basically the priest dude is just trying to tempt her to join.
There, all...
Yes, he's like tempting her to like join them or something, and he has like
to give in. I think to join Chester. I think he's trying to get her to kill herself. Like,
okay, because I didn't fully understand this moment, because what happens initially is he shows her Chester like in the basket, and she picks him up and starts crying, and she's
having a very emotional moment with her son. Their dead baby.
And the priest is like, I was never given this moment myself. I can offer it to you. And I'm just like, what do you mean? Like, so I guess what he's insinuating,
as she's hugging the baby, all of the women around him, they start raising knives, and so I think that's to signify that if she gives in to holding on to the baby, essentially in real life she'd probably kill herself, kind of like how Ruby was cutting herself, but in her delusion she was being choked, but in real life she was actually cutting herself. So I think it was kind of something like that, like it's like giving in to your sadness and essentially just dying.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Because if you want Satan to have your soul, you got to kill yourself, so you don't get to go to heaven.
But thankfully, Lucky kind of wakes up from this and sees that she's not holding anything, and she's like, "You took my baby." And
it's a badass moment when pops her eyes open. It's like, fuck you,
stands up and is like, she's just like, I see you. I see what you're doing. I see who you really are. And then in those moments, that's when it's sort of like he starts becoming more real. He becomes
and the congregation
more human
disappears.
The congregation disappears, and it's like he is slowly turning back into the human that he was. Like his powers or the strength.
His eyes are starting to get classy.
Yeah, he's becoming more of his human self and not of like this ethereal demon.
Yeah, he has a pretty messed up face too. Like the whole side of his face is like this black rot, and it's pretty.
I think that's where he got hit with the board.
Oh, damn! You're right. Oh, that's probably exactly what it's from. He getting cracked by that beam. That would do it.
Yeah. So he's slowly becoming more human. And she's saying, I see you over and over, and it's causing him to become more real. And you're noticing it, him going back in time, and he's seeing all the shit that he did that,
the fire,
like burning people from the
the guilt
past.
is kind of,
And
I think the guilt is washing over him, sort of, and like,
yes,
I think
and
that's
then
kind
with
of
the
what this
last,
represents.
and then there's like a scene of them like shaking like the deal that he made with the
Yeah.
devil, and
Well,
it's
and
like
Lucky rips the
in reverse.
rosary bead out of his hand and
Yes,
drops it on the ground, just like how
right.
reminiscent of the black and white episode where he's like searching for it, and that's when he first blames the black lady of stealing it because
That's
she gives
right.
it to him. So this time the black lady's taking it away from him. So it's
It's
like, yeah,
exactly
that's
like
right.
it's like the past, but it's happening in reverse, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
see,
everything's like rewinding almost, like all the
yes,
evil
exactly.
he's done is kind of unraveling, and
Yeah,
he's
totally.
becoming weak.
Because you see the moment where he shakes hands with the devil, but it's played in reverse. So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that seal is now undone, and then with the last "I see you" from Lucky, he just bursts into flames.
Yeah, oh, it's so great. Yeah, it goes completely black, and then relights when his whole body's on fire. It's such a cool shot because it's just like complete darkness.
Yeah.
Just it's like you think it
Yeah.
might be it. Like, oh, it's just gonna be a tasteful fade to black. It's like, nah, we're gonna light this bitch on fire. Which is also extremely satisfying
So
because that's what that asshole deserves.
100%. And yeah, we're getting close to the end of the episode now.
And he has
And
the same fate that he gave to the that black family because he loses his eyes and then gets lit on fire.
oh yeah,
Very
it's
poetic.
perfect. It's poetic.
Yeah.
And
Ma.
then so the Emerys are all together upstairs, and this time Lucky is the one saying that they're not running anymore. So
Yeah.
as a family, they all go stand outside together, and the fire recedes. And it's like
Unified
they've,
front.
yeah, they're they're not moving. They're staying there. They've like literally killed their demons.
They went through
They
hell.
are good. Yeah,
Chased down Satan's right hand.
yeah, and
What's a
that's
couple racist white assholes now? It's like, come at me, bro.
bro. You can't beat the Emerys at this point.
Oh, it's great.
So
And it just shows like it cuts to each of their faces, and it's like how like confident and powerful they look, and then it just ends on little Gracie's face, all determined. She's like,
it's so
it's
cute.
like, yeah, it's adorable. It's perfect way to end on that little girl's face, and then
Yes, such a
just
satisfying ending. So that was it. That was
that,
them.
and then it just cuts to them. It just says the title them,
Yeah.
and that is the end of it. That is the finale.
I just I
Beautiful.
just wish that Clark moved in with them and they could be, he could be the roommate.
You'd be like their friendly next door gay neighbor.
Yeah, he could like help protect them. That would have been the best, but it's okay. Clark has his own journey.
Yeah. Clark got his own thing. You know, he didn't actively like do anything bad to them, but he wasn't always
No,
like going out of his way
he
to
was
help them at the same. He
no,
was
he
more
wasn't.
complicit, I would say, is
He's
his
more
sin.
complicit. Like he's not a good guy. He's just
No, he's kind of
he's
just
not one
selfish.
of the assholes.
Yeah, you know, he's just kind of like also because he's gay, kind of, I guess, feels for them, but that's about it. I don't think he's going to help them out too much. But Oodalolly, what a wonderful series. Little Marvin, the guy who wrote that show, that was a great freaking show. I looked him up on IMDb afterwards to see, like, the guy who made it's called Little Marvin. He wrote the whole thing. And he directed some of them. He produced it, wrote it, and I think he directed some of the episodes. And
cool.
yeah, I looked him up on IMDb, and this is the only thing he's ever written.
Wow.
He's just.
I hope he gets more work from this.
Well, he's like some old black gentleman. Like, so I think he's probably like he probably does other shit than movies. Like,
Probably.
I'm assuming he's famous for something. Like, it seems like with a name like Little Marvin, he'd be a musician. Like,
what the heck? Okay.
he just sounds like a
so
jazz musician.
His name's literally Little Marvin.
Yeah, that is the title. That's what his name is given in the credits, and it's just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Like, I can't believe. I'm like, I wonder if this is like almost just because this is the only thing he wrote. Like, I wonder if this somehow ties to maybe his own family experience. I'm very curious to know if maybe he was like a child, maybe moving in to Compton as one of the first black families, and maybe his family faced persecution like this. I'm kind of curious
Oh
to
man.
find
Wow.
out.
Yeah.
Because usually if someone only writes like one thing that's like probably their passion project that probably is very personal to them, and
Exactly. Yeah.
well, he did a very good job.
Yes. Yes, he did a very good job because it was very, very well written.
Yeah. And it was executed so well too. Like I would say just from
Yeah.
top to bottom, front to back, like it was just they just nailed it at every stage. Like Panos Cosmatos says, they did not fuck up at each of the important stages. They
Yeah.
nailed it. They got awesome directors. Ty West directed the last episode too,
I
which
noticed
was
that. I was
yeah.
like, yeah, did a very good job.
And just yeah, the cinematography, the music, the actors, like yeah, I was like just as a beautiful package. I'd say that's definitely one of my favorite like horror kind of I don't know anything really like miniseries
Yeah.
movies. It feels like a movie almost just the way it's how much is in it
It's
and how
really good.
focused it
Yeah.
is. And it's like yeah, it's like it's so it's such a challenging subject matter, but it's just so well done. I just hope that people actually watch it.
I think yeah, it's accessible in a way because it's it's very artsy and it's done. I don't know, it doesn't necessarily make the viewer themselves feel like they are the people that the show is yelling at, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is definitely
they're trying
commentary
to
on
show you
racism.
what it was really like, and they do such a
Yeah.
good job of showing you how in different ways they were persecuted, like from like the how the laws were made, like how the zoning was done. Like they go through it
Yeah.
all in the show. They do like they
They do such a
really
good job.
cover everything, like or at
Because
least it
like it
feels
does
like it.
it I think yeah, I don't want to get too much into this water because I don't think I'm the right person to talk
Yeah,
about this, but
no,
like I just think it's terrible how much of a lack of education of this subject matter that there is in general
Mhm.
for people for white people basically coming from a very tiny town where it was like 100% just white Caucasian people.
Me too.
Like we didn't learn about any of this stuff, and so having TV shows, subject matter that is on TV that can kind of introduce people to a lot of the historical things based
Yeah.
on historical events that have happened in history, I think is important, and there should be more of it.
Yeah, and it's like
So,
because yeah, you don't have to think that like, oh, well, I'm never going to do this, but just knowing like what happened, like having that history in your mind will make you a more empathetic person because I
yes,
didn't know
it's
most of the stuff before watching the show. Like it was quite educational and also just
yeah,
haunting and just like
haunting.
you know that racism exists, but you don't know specifics of what
Yeah,
that
exactly.
entails. And this does such a good job of showing you the details because it's kind of easy to just say, "Oh yeah, racism," and then it's just kind of glossed over. But when you see those fine details, it's like very poignant and very
Yeah. Well,
shocking.
because it's extremely shocking, and it's sort of the thing where it's like, yeah, this is a piece of fiction literature, but it's like
Yeah,
that needs to be based off of something. It's like this
yeah,
all comes from reality, so there
hmm
are a lot of nuggets of truth throughout this whole series. It's like, yes, there's some supernatural elements to this that may not have happened, but
yeah.
like there,
Satan probably
you
didn't
know,
exist in their basement.
right, yeah, but there's like the blackface minstrel shows that were shown, and um the the redlining thing with Compton, like it has a lot of truth to it, so
Well,
it's
and
like
all of the temptations that the demon gives them is something that probably a family like them would face in that environment. Like it's realistic the temptations that he faces them with, and like what they feel, and it's yeah, focusing it around that one family makes it very accessible as well.
yep, yeah, super good show. I hope that we um, didn't get too far in the weeds as two white people talking about
Yeah,
racism,
really hope
but
not. Just want you guys to
I
watch
hope
this show. It's a wonderful show.
yes,
It's so well done. It deserves to be seen. Yeah, if you want to watch another show that we haven't blathered on about, I would highly recommend Lovecraft County. It is an amazing show. It also wraps up well enough in one season, even though it got canceled. But yeah, I would highly recommend that as well, because that is another show that will make you feel uncomfortable. But at this point, I think we will probably try to veer away from racially charged horror and maybe actually try to put the casual back in casual creeps. And next episode, we promise you that it will be much, much more casual.
Because in terms of gore, this podcast is about gore. So in terms of gore, this is casual. But in terms of topically speaking, it is not. So yeah, we'll try to hopefully next time all elements will be a little more casual. So
Yeah.
thank you everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed our series on them. It was a very, very good watch. So would 100% suggest watching it if you haven't already. And yeah, see you guys next time.
Bye.
All right, podcast's over.